Despite some small complaints with it, I had a lot of good things to say about last week's episode, The Times They Are A-Changeling. The potential it created for future storylines was amazing. The character development it contributed for Spike was enough to get me to bring out Steven Universe comparisons. It was a good episode that I was left feeling good about. And yet, when all was said and done, it wasn't an episode I really chose to revisit very many times. This season, I couldn't stop rewatching episodes like Salro Review, Flutter Brother, Stranger Than Fanfiction, and A Hearthwarming Tale. But I never really felt all that compelled to return to Spike's little misadventure in the Crystal Empire. And I think the reason for that is simple. For all that it gave us and for all that I appreciate in it, the episode as it is just isn't a considerable amount of fun. That's not to say it's boring or lacking as entertainment. I was engaged while watching it. It just lacks the magnetic fun quality that keeps me coming back. And that's fine. MLP always has had episodes that excel in different ways. Episodes like Sister of Social, which thrills by playing with our emotions and giving us juicy character development, and episodes like Lesson Zero, which just seek to destroy us with laughter and pure entertainment value. Both are valuable and both contribute to the whole of what makes MLP great. So it's fitting, I think, that after a much more thoughtful episode like The Times They Are A-Changeling, we'd be awarded an episode on that completely opposite side of the spectrum. One with no other concerns than being as much fun as it possibly can be. And one which also just so happens to continue Spike's excellent development of this season. Episode 17 of Season 6, Dungeons and Discords, was to me just immediately and intrinsically gratifying. Its predecessor may have restored my optimism after a couple of disappointing weeks, but this fully reminded me of just how entertaining the show could actually be. It kept me smiling and laughing and not wanting the episode to end. And as much as I like an episode that has me reconsidering what I thought I knew about Chrysalis and her changelings, an episode with the power to just keep me so amused honestly means a little more to me. The fun of the episode begins and ends with Discord. I honestly hadn't realized just how much I missed seeing him in the show, though I suppose it has been a few episodes short of an entire season since his last appearance in What About Discord, and even longer than that since his last appearance where he was actually written well in Make New Friends But Keep Discord. What's with his name having to be in the title of all his episodes these days? It was definitely time for a Discord episode. Now, I haven't yet had an opportunity to talk much about our favorite spirit of chaos and disharmony in my reviews, other than making it clear that the episode that began his transition from vengeful force for evil to mischievous but benign trickster friend, Keep Calm and Flutter On, is one of my favorites of all time. As I said in my Flutter Brother review, the majority of the reason for that is what the episode did for Fluttershy's character. But even still, I really do approve of the interesting direction the series has decided to take Discord, starting with that episode. The thing which made his sudden redemption arc work for me is that even in his delightful first appearance as an outright villain, there was this naive, childlike quality to him. I never got a real sense from him that his actions came from true malice. It was more he was just doing what he did because he could. He had unlimited power, so he was going to use it to shape the world however he wanted. And sure, he did some cruel things. There was a definite sadistic streak to how he toyed with the main six and Twilight in particular. But they were the ones who held the power to interfere with and rob him of his fun. I could buy that if you peeled it all back, Discord was ultimately lonely and emotionally underdeveloped. It made sense that friendship wasn't something he'd ever seen before, because really, who was going to get close to someone like that with such power and such lack of inhibition? And wanting to experience it, it always made sense to me that that would be enough to get him to reel it all in, at least as far as he could. His character arc in Season 4 then made the change even easier to accept. It was important to see that he wasn't immediately going to be a completely different character, and having him at least momentarily relapse into evil in the season finale was a brilliant way to ultimately more permanently seal his redemption. His two appearances following that before the most recent then, as I indicated earlier, left me split. I felt that Make New Friends continued his character progression in the perfect way post-Twilight's Kingdom, showing him in a more earnest light as he struggled with feelings of jealousy for the first time, which inadvertently brought both the silly and sinister out of him anew. What About Discord, meanwhile, like its inside jokes on Twilight, fell more than a little flat. It felt like a backward slide for Discord, a return to the roundabout troll tactics he employed on Twilight and Three's a Crowd, which felt disingenuous after what should have been a real relationship-changing moment between the two of them in Twilight's Kingdom. Dungeons luckily has a lot more in common with Make New Friends. Like that episode, it's structured entirely around Discord himself rather than another character, which is probably for the best at this point with his episodes. He as a recurring character has more to learn about friendship than anyone this side of Starlight. Framing the episode so as it's him learning something new is always going to work better than anything else. More than that, the episode also followed a similar formula to Make New Friends, with Discord gradually slipping in his control on his darker impulses as he becomes increasingly frustrated. This time he probably even went further though. It was the first time since his debut appearance where we saw him getting deliberately sadistic, what with his decision to go all Two-Face and defer to chance in deciding whether or not Spike and Big Mac would be spared from what the episode didn't hesitate to let us know would be real pain. And it's satisfying to me. I want Discord to be someone who, though ultimately caring about his friends, still does show shades of who he used to be. It just feels more genuine, not to mention it's always entertaining as can be. This one I think really got that balance just right. What helps is that, for me at least, Discord was relatable here, and not just because I don't entirely understand the appeal of pen and paper RPGs. Feelings of general superiority, like I'm the most intellectual person in the room or just above certain activities, are certainly something I've occasionally dealt with. This message of not letting yourself get so wrapped up in yourself that you end up robbing yourself of an opportunity to connect with other people, it's something valuable to me, and it was demonstrated very well here. It felt right. What also felt right, as I said much earlier, was Spike. He played a secondary role next to Discord, yet it was good to see that, despite that, he continued to be awesome in this episode, making strides to be inclusive, wanting to involve Discord not because he himself wanted to, but because he realized, even where Discord himself did not, how alone he was. The best moment for Spike is after Discord leaves. Despite all that has just transpired and what Discord has put him and Big Mac through, Spike cannot enjoy his game again until he has set things right. It's really cool to see him consistently be this mature. So yeah, Discord and Spike were great. The weakest link of the episode is, unfortunately, Big Mac. Brother of Social, one of the most poignant, emotionally resonant episodes in the entire series, secured his place as one of my absolute favorite supporting characters that the show has. After an episode like that, it's a bit of a disappointment to find that his next quote-unquote starring role is much more just what you'd expect, him playing third wheel and adding a bit of comedic punch here and there with his characteristic brevity. Still, it is good to see him having fun, and to see this bond of friendship between him and Spike firmly established beyond what could have remained simply a one-off throwaway line in the cutie map. In general, I rather like the idea of having an episode all about the male characters in MLP. It's kind of novel somehow. It is a little surprising to see just how few characters there are to show up for a Guys Night episode, however. The cast of MLP is so diverse that I rarely even think about how few male characters we really have. Still, it does feel somehow like more could have been included. I suppose it would have been a stretch calling Shining down from the Crystal Empire, even if it has been established in comics canon at least that he's into ogres and oubliettes as well. And, well, yeah. The other most seen males are Mr. Cake, Cranky, and the Flim Flam brothers, none of whom would have been an especially natural fit for different reasons. Perhaps they could have brought in a less seen character, though. Cheese Sandwich would have been great, for instance, if only for the novelty of having Weird Al guest voice in D&D themed episodes for two different cartoons. Speaking of which, I do think the episode used its D&D theme well. Honestly, I prefer this to what Gravity Falls did with the somewhat similar Dungeons, and more Dungeons. There's just something more inherently interesting about the setup, I think. Discord essentially plays both the Mabel Stan role of being emphatically not into and in fact disparaging of the game, and the Probabilitor role as the weird maniac who sadistically traps others inside it. Rather than being outright forced to play the game in order to spare those dear to him from peril then, all of it here comes from inside Discord. He realizes with Spike's help that the connection that comes from playing such a game is something he actually wants to experience. I'm almost done with this review, and yet I almost feel like I've been approaching this episode completely wrong. As I said at the beginning, the characters and the storytelling, they aren't the bigger takeaway here. No, it all really takes a backseat to the zany, off-the-wall humor of the episode. This episode provided another excuse for personal favorite current writer on MLP, Nick Confalone, to just get as silly as possible, with D&D jokes, callbacks, swift cutaways, references, squizzards, and Discord just being Discord. It was fun and funny, and that's what makes it so delightful and rewatchable. Everything else I've talked about, everything else the episode does, it just kind of feels like icing on top of the cake of what is the real star here, the comedy. Which is fine by me. I don't ask for anything more from an episode of My Little Pony than to be entertained. But it does make it kind of hard to review, at least the way I do it, without any kind of recap reiterating to you what happened in the episode like you haven't already seen it yourself. But even if there is less to be said, that's no mark against what the episode achieved. Not every episode has to be something deep and provocative, and honestly, when all is said and done, I like this one more than not just the times they are a changeling, but probably every episode since Flutter Brother. And though I can't say Nick Confalone has topped his other two excellent episodes of the season, No Second Prances and the Saddle Row Review, he's at least come surprisingly close, giving us an episode that's just a straight-up solid 22 minutes of entertainment. That's more than enough for me. This has been a RarityDash review, thanks for watching, and see you soon.